Hello! Happy Friday to everyone. Welcome to the FanDuel Punch-Out. I'm Big Italy 42. He's Spencer Limbach at Spencer_JL on Twitter. And we got a great slate of action tonight. Actually, a lot of pitching options, but unlike last Friday, it's a lot of pitching options kind of top to bottom, not all just top-heavy today. So a lot of interesting ways you can go here, and also some good hitters and some good spots against some of these terrible pitchers. So it's going to be a really fun, especially a fun GPP night, with all these big bats and big arms out here too.
Yeah, Friday, always one of the best MLB nights, and we're going to go through, give you all the best plays at each position, some sneaky tournament plays, and stick around to the end because I'm going to go over my preliminary FanDuel lineup, and then we're going to kind of critique it and go from there. So look forward to that.
Absolutely. Let's start off here with Matt Harvey, $10,700. Seems like the debate today, from what we've been seeing and what we were talking about, is going to be Harvey versus Cole Hamels. You got Harvey as $900 more than Hamels. He's got a matchup against Miami, and it's a solid matchup. Miami, one of the worst teams in the league against righties. Lowest team ISO against righties. Then you've got Cole Hamels on the other side against Colorado at home. He was coming off a great performance at Coors Field 2 starts ago. He's got now the Rockies, who strike out more than any other team against lefties, 25.4% of the time. For me, it's going to be Cole Hamels here. I think Matt Harvey is an interesting option, but I feel like they're similar, and I think that there's bigger upside and less individual bats you got to worry about here. I mean, obviously, Harvey's got to worry about Giancarlo Stanton, but there's not a Giancarlo Stanton in the Rockies lineup right now, at least the way that Troy Tulowitzki's hitting or not hitting. So I think that Hamels, maybe not quite the upside, but I think very similar and probably a pretty similar floor, and both are pretty big favorites as well.
Yeah, I pretty much agree 100%. I have Harvey just a tick above Hamels, so in that case, I'm going to take the discount probably every time. And Hamels, you look at his numbers, he's really starting to get it going. 8 strikeouts, 9 strikeouts, 7 strikeouts, 4 straight wins. 5 of his last 6, he's recorded the win. So that, and he's a minus 165 favorite as of right now, and Philly's going up against Mr. Bettis. I don't know his first name.
Chad.
It's not Jerome.
Yeah.
What is it?
Chad.
Chad. Okay, it's Chad Bettis, Jerome's nephew. And so yeah, I think they can give him good run support, and yeah, so I'll definitely take Cole Hamels for the discount there.
Yeah, another great thing about Hamels is early in the season he was struggling with home runs and with walks. You mentioned those good starts recently. 3 straight games with just 1 walk apiece. Not giving up a lot of base runners at all. 5 hits, 6 hits, 5 hits, 4. And 7+ innings in 5 of his last 6 starts. So really starting to turn around. Really starting to look like an ace again after he really struggled earlier this season.
There's one guy I'm worried about on the Colorado side is that Nolan Arenado.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Hamels, veteran pitcher, smart pitcher. I mean, he knows his stuff. I think he can work around Arenado and be just fine and mow down the rest of this lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the bottom of that lineup in particular, pretty weak, so I think he'll be in a fine spot. I don't think you can go wrong with either guy, but like you said, I'm going to take the discount with Hamels, especially if that $900 does a lot for your lineup. Other options, I love Trevor Bauer in tournaments. Safeco Field, obviously. Seattle striking out 22.6% of the time. And we saw what Corey Kluber did to these guys last night, mowed them down. Obviously, Bauer not the talent that Kluber is, but as far as strikeouts go, he's not too far behind, almost 24% strikeout rate, and he's pitching deep as well. 7+ in his last 3 games. I like him a lot at $8,600 tonight.
I think you need a little more savings to build some stacks in tournaments. Bauer's a pretty good way to go. He'll give you a respectable fantasy total. Good chance at the win going against Taijuan Walker, who hasn't been great this season at all. I think the Cleveland lefties can get to him. And like you said, Seattle 6th in strikeouts, 23rd in WOBA against right-handers. So there's some upside with Bauer. Otherwise, if you want to look on the upside category again, James Shields, he's pricey, but I mean, his strikeout rate is what, 35%, something ridiculous.
Well,
like that. Yeah. So if you want to catch that strikeout upside and just hope he doesn't give up homers, and maybe he'll catch a win. Maybe he'll sneak in a win at some point. I mean, he has to sooner or later, right?
Yeah, I mean, you'd think so. He just hasn't got a lot of run support. But
yeah.
Good thing going for him tonight is that Francisco Liriano on the other side, obviously a good pitcher, but a lot of these San Diego bats hit lefties a lot better than they hit righties. So, and he's coming off a good start, but got rocked the time before. Excuse me. So maybe they'll end up being able to get some run support for him today. But either way, I mean, you got to like his upside, even if he doesn't get a ton of run support with that big strikeout rate.
Right. And one risky tournament pick I'm going to throw out there, very low ownership opportunity here, is Robbie De La Rosa. He's finally starting to develop into a legitimate MLB pitcher. He's 7.3K against Milwaukee, and this Milwaukee lineup is a lot more intimidating, or a lot less intimidating than it sounds. If you pitch around Braun and Gomez, De La Rosa should be just fine. They're third, the Brewers, that is, are third in strikeout rate against righties, 26th in WOBA. So, I don't know. He's pitching deep into games, 7, 8, and he even has a complete game under his belt. Reasonable strikeout upside, so I think that's a sneaky pick.
Yeah, I like that a lot, especially the fact that you look at his numbers against righties, and he's given up a 222 WOBA to right-handed batters this season. We know a very right-handed dominant lineup there for the Brewers, so a lot of things going in his favor. So I definitely like that call. And I'm going to throw out your crazy one-of GPP play if you're playing a bunch of lineups. That's Hector Santiago against the Tigers. You may call me crazy.
It's crazy.
Call me crazy for this one. Look at what he's been doing recently. The guy's been actually pretty damn good recently. He's sitting at $7,700 here on FanDuel, and the Tigers have the 4th highest strikeout rate against lefties. This is a guy who 6 2/3, 6Ks, 7 innings, 5Ks, 6 innings, 8Ks. He's pitching well against some fine offenses. Had a nice game at Toronto. You don't necessarily bank on a lot of run production to support him, but at that price tag, I mean, if he gets you a quality start, he's going to be one of the lower-owned pitchers on the board tonight. And I think I'm going to be throwing in one of my tournament lineups tonight.
I like the right-handed Detroit batters tonight. So, yeah, that's definitely more of a boomer bust play, as, I mean, the Detroit lineup pretty much is. They kind of mirror the Astros in that regard, whether they hit 5 home runs or they strike out. So,
yeah, I mean, it's all or nothing with these guys sometimes, it seems. So, if it's one of those nights where they're not hitting the ball well, I am on the Detroit bats as well. But either way, if you want your very low-owned guy, that's your guy that I'm going to be going with there. Yep. Absolutely. All right, let's move on here to catcher. I love Evan Gattis tonight, of course, against the lefty. Kind of hard not to at home. He's $4,000. He's expensive. Buster Posey, same situation, but I like Gattis more. If you're looking for cheaper options, Derek Norris at $2,700 is probably going to be my go-to. The cheapest guy that I actually have some sort of confidence in tonight.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. I think Evan Gattis is head and shoulders above the rest, but unfortunately he's priced like that because of his recent hot streak. So I'm going to try and squeeze him in as much as I can, but I'm not going to necessarily force it in all my spots. Like you said, Derek Norris, like him, 2,700 against a lefty. And it's a lefty that gives up home runs from time to time, too. Even in Petco Park, we know Norris has the power to get it out of there. He's shown it before. Russell Martin, someone I don't mind, against Trevor May. You don't like the downgrade in park factor, but he's reasonably priced, 3,100. And Trevor May, he was great in his last start against the White Sox, but, I mean, should be a different story this time around against Toronto. If you want a really cheap play, not a ton of upside here, but he's going to save you some cap space. Maybe you can grab some upside somewhere else. Kurt Suzuki, all you're really hoping for is he scraps you together 2 or 3 fantasy points, and then you're set. He has the righty-lefty matchup against Mark Burley. He should be batting 5th or 6th, so a decent lineup spot. Maybe he'll get some RBI potential. Near minimum salary, $2,300.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all, and I'm not a believer in Steven Strasburg at all, so if you need a punt, I don't mind one of the Reds catchers, either Brian Pena or Tucker Barnhart, if you need a really cheap play. They're $2,300 and $2,200 tonight, so unless you're a believer in Steven Strasburg, in which case, please explain to me why, because he has been awful.
You know, that's a really good point, actually, and I meant to bring it up, is that I think the Reds are a nice tournament stack, a sneaky tournament stack, because, I mean, even though Strasburg has struggled and it's well documented, you know, he's still a good pitcher that people are going to shy away from. And if you look at projection systems, they still think that Strasburg is the same Strasburg from the last 3 years. I mean, that's factored in. So, I mean, people looking at those projection systems, the Reds aren't ranking high. So they're going to be off a lot of people's radar for that reason.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And, you know, Steven Strasburg, the one thing that really got me when I'm looking at his numbers is the fact that his swinging strike rate is not only much lower than it once was, but it's among the lowest in the league on qualified pitchers. And obviously that's his bread and butter. That's his calling card, is striking batters out. And if he's not striking anybody out, then he has zero value, especially in a ballpark like Great American.
Yep.
All right. So moving on here to first base, Miguel Cabrera. You gotta love him against a lefty at $4,900. I also love Prince Fielder, $4,500 in a fine spot at home here. He's on fire. I had an 0 for yesterday. We'll let it slide and assume he's going to get back to his home run crushing ways right now. But I think my favorite tournament option tonight is going to be Lucas Duda against Mr. Dan Herron. You know I'm not a fan of Dan Herron. He's been struggling with the long ball for a few years, and
you love picking on Dan Herron.
I cannot stand Dan Herron. I don't like him. And Duda, I mean, if we're talking power, I mean, the guy's got 2 double-dong games in his last 6. So 5 home runs in that span total. I just love it. And he's hitting the ball well, even when he's not hitting home runs. He's not that guy you're just chasing a home run with. He could easily hit you a couple doubles and pay out that $4,000 price tag as well.
Yeah, and his price point is kind of wedged in there where I think some people will be uncomfortable paying up for him because it's such a rise after that 2 home run performance. So, yeah, I think his ownership percentage is going to be down because of that. A couple more guys I'm looking at. Tell me if I'm crazy here, but is it okay to put Chris Davis in cash games? In this matchup against Nate Carnes at home, 3.3K, he's hitting the ball well, 3 homers in his past 3 games. I don't know if that means anything because it's Chris Davis, he's boomer bust anytime, but I kind of like the matchup. Vegas likes the Orioles today. They have the 3rd highest run total, so I'm kind of leaning towards them. I'm not going to have 100% exposure, but I will have some.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's certainly in play. Because like you mentioned, I mean, if sites like Draft Street still existed and it's negatives for strikeouts, I'd say no chance. But an out's an out. So all outs are created equal now. So, I mean, if he strikes out 3 times but hits you a double, then it's not such a bad play. I think he's borderline for me. I'll consider him, but I'm not sure if that'll be my cash game play or not. I think some other guys around that price I like too. You like Freddie Freeman, Joey Votto, those 2 guys, and even Ryan Howard. I mean, Ryan Howard's hitting the ball really well right now. Gets a bad righty. I know he's 0 for his last 2 games, but I guess he's pretty similar to Chris Davis. If it's between those 2, I'd definitely go Chris Davis.
I have Ryan Howard as a great sneaky tournament pick because, I mean, if you look at the game logs, he hasn't done much the past 3, and I think some people shy away from that. And there's just such a huge logjam in that price range between like guys like Abreu, Davis, Freeman, Votto. I mean, I think Howard's going to be overlooked, so he's a great tournament play.
Yeah, speaking of tournament plays, I'll throw Albert Pujols out there against Anibal Sanchez, who's had big-time struggles with the long ball as of recently. Pujols hasn't looked great, but he's still got the power to send one into the seats.
Yeah, we need to make a quick note here that David Ortiz will probably be out of the lineup. Red Sox manager said yesterday that he'll take a couple days off for mental health to see if he can get things back together. So even though he rates really high against Gallardo in Texas, chances are he won't be in the lineup. So take that into consideration when building yours.
Yeah, great call. Great call there. I didn't even realize that before you said it. So definitely monitor that situation. Assume that he's going to be out. Second base, loaded. So we'll give you the quick rundown here. Love Brian Dozier against the lefty. I know you do too. Jason Kipnis against anyone. He's just destroying the ball right now. Altuve also against the lefty. And then I'll throw out one more and see what else you got. I like Jimmy Paredes at $3,300 as well.
Yep, I kind of like picking on Carnes tonight, and I don't really know why. I mean, his WOBA splits against lefties, it's like 320, 325, which is, a little bit inflated, but not, something to really stack against for cash game purposes. But that price point for Paredes, and plus he's just so solid, multi-hit candidate in any matchup, let alone against a mediocre pitcher like Carnes. He has stolen base upside. He has a little bit of power too, especially in Camden Yards, a ballpark that really helps left-handed power. So yeah, I like him. Obviously, Brian Dozier is the guy that you want. You definitely want to work in as much as you can, but I don't mind Paredes as a fallback option there.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And elsewhere, Ben Zobrist against the lefty, Chris Capuano hit a double last night. Only a couple games removed from his injury, but he's looked fine. $3,000 I think makes him a really nice, probably a cash game option for tonight. Doesn't have a ton of upside, but I love that price for him in cash games. And then on the opposite side of that Nate Carnes game, Logan Forsythe is just on. He's hot right now. He's getting time now at first base with James Loney out for a few weeks. $2,700, a nice price tag for a guy who's just getting on base every day.
Yeah, I don't really mind that, especially, I mean, he has a little bit of pop in his bat, too. We've seen that. He's got some home run upside in Miguel Gonzalez, 1.6 home run per 9. That's one of the highest on the day. So that's against that's against right-handers, too. So kind of a reverse splits working there. So look at Forsythe, look at Longoria as tournament options for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Longoria, he's $3,300 there. We'll use that transition over to third base. Todd Frazier, like we said, Strasburg just not getting it done, not missing bats. Todd Frazier doesn't need a whole lot to send one out at Great American Ballpark. We've seen it time and time again, so I like him a lot. Manny Machado against Carnes, $3,300. Gotta like him. Excuse me. You already mentioned Nolan Arenado. If you're not playing Hamels, makes for a great tournament play at $3,200. He's been hot. And then I'll let you go ahead here. I know there's someone else that you like for sure. Here.
Yeah, I'm kind of back and forth between two guys here, and it's Adrian Beltre against Stephen Wright in Texas. I just love the price point, $3K, and the Rangers are the highest projected scoring team tonight at 4.76 runs. So, I mean, Beltre in the 3-hole, or is he batting cleanup now? I know he's kind of back and forth.
I'm not sure tonight. I think he was batting cleanup last time.
Either way, I mean, great spot for him. Highest projected scoring team, hitter-friendly ballpark. 3K, I really like that. I'm kind of between him and Trevor Plouffe. As we said, Mark Burley, this is like a 335 WOBA split against righties. Plouffe, extremely solid, home run upside. You just look at his game log. He has multiple hits in 3 of the last 4. Guy just produces. I really like Dozier and Plouffe as a mini stack. Not to sound like a homer there, but
they're in the first lineup I built this morning, so I'm with you.
Yeah, I think the prices line up, and yeah,
absolutely. Really like and if you need a cheap guy here, there's only one that I really like. It's Yangervis Solarte, $2,300. If he gets a nice lineup spot near the top of that order, he hits lefties really well, and he gets Francisco Liriano tonight, who you're not necessarily trying to pick on by any means, but you know, $2,300, you get a guy that's batting first or second. You don't mind that in your cash games.
Yeah. Oh, one more. I need to throw this out there. Almost forgot. Brock Holt against Gallardo. 2.6K. Really like that. You look at his game logs. Somehow he's flown under the radar, and he's hitting the ball. He's scoring runs. He has like 6 runs in the past 5 games. And so, I mean, the guy just produces, and he's 2.6K, so I don't mind him for some salary cap relief.
Yeah, and Gallardo struggles with lefties as well, especially this season, so I think that's a great call. Moving on to shortstop, there's not a whole lot I like here. Jung-Ho Gong, I believe it's called now. I saw it pronounced as Gong, so he's absolutely locked in. $3,000, you got to like him. I won't be playing Troy Tulowitzki. I don't care that he's against the lefty. That ship has sailed for me until I see him multiple. It's got to be multiple extra base hits in a game for me to justify paying for him ever.
Here's the thing. He's still pricey, somewhat pricey on FanDuel, 3.9K.
Yep.
I've seen him on other sites that are a little more, weighted heavily on recent performance, and he's down in the range along the likes of, like, Jimmy Rollins, Semien, and Galvis, which is probably where he should be given his recent performance, so I don't like that 3.9K price tag.
No, I don't either at all. Speaking of Semien, I think he's a fine play today against a lefty at $2,900. Johnny Peralta at 33 as well. And then if you're looking for cheap, I've got 2 guys, Wilmer Flores at 2.4 and Zach Cozart at 2.3.
Yeah, definitely check up the lineup positioning with Cozart. I think that would kind of break the tie between the two. Otherwise, I would side with Flores just because I think he has a little more home run upside against Dan Herron, I think he has like a 40% fly ball rate. You should know you're a Dan Herron stacking
against. I'll tell you what his fly ball rate is too high.
Enthusiast. Yeah, so basically shortstop, I'm looking at it this way to put it in a nutshell. Jose Reyes is the top play, but not really by much. He doesn't really have that high of a projection. 3.2K. Don't mind him in cash games if you have the cap space to fit him in. But mostly I'm just looking to punt the position. So Flores, he's the guy I have penciled in right now. Just hoping he can scrap together a couple points, or maybe he'll get the home run. He already has 7 this season, so don't mind that for near minimum salary.
Yeah, he's the guy I've got penciled into my lineup as well right now. As we move to the outfield, you're going to want some of these Washington lefty bats against Anthony DeSclafani because he's awful against lefties. Bryce Harper, obviously very prohibitive at $6,000. Going to be tournament-only option at best if you can afford him at all. If you're playing a bunch of tournaments, find yourself a way to get him in there some places. Denard Span is going to be my cheaper way to get exposure there at $3,500. I know you're thinking the same type of thing. I want a lefty there, and for $2,500 less, I'll get Span. He's shown a little bit of pop, and I mean, it's a pretty small ballpark in Cincinnati. So Denard Span, he's got speed too. Hit one in the gap, maybe he gets a double out of it. I think he's in a great spot tonight.
Yeah, I love that for cash games. And then if you're looking at tournament or maybe borderline cash games equivalents, for the similar price point, we have Yoenis Cespedes against your boy Santiago. I'm gonna forever label him your boy. So
we'll talk in the morning about whether or not he's actually my boy.
Yeah. I mean Santiago, he has been pitching well, as you said. Kind of surprisingly so too. He has a 50% fly ball rate,
yep,
which could spell trouble against these Detroit lefties, especially Cespedes, who's notoriously power hitter. So I like Cespedes for some home run upside. Torrey Hunter, same price, 3.4K. As we're talking about a twin stack here against Burley, these right-handers. Twins, actually, they're projected at 4.3 runs today, so third highest on the day. I really don't mind making a mini stack out of that. And Torrey Hunter, really like him in that spot. Otherwise, there's a guy here I have penciled into my lineup, and I don't know how I feel about it. Adam Jones. He's kind of coming around lately. He's hitting the ball. He's just, I don't know. He has 1 RBI in his past 10 games in 3 runs scored. So I don't know how I feel about that, but he's just dirt cheap.
Yeah, I feel like at that price, he's more of a cash game play than a GPP. And I think he's a great cash game play at that price. But like you said, he hasn't shown that upside that you really want in tournaments.
Well, here's the situation. Who would we pivot from if you have all your positions filled like that and you're just hesitant on Adam Jones?
You have exactly 3,000?
I guess JD Martinez, if you're looking for upside for the same reason we said with Cespedes. But I don't know if I feel better putting him in over Jones for cash games necessarily. Maybe Hanley Ramirez for upside.
Yep.
Finally hit a home run last night.
Actually, you know what? I would go Rajai Davis at $3,000 is who I'd go because he's leading off against the lefty.
Oh, that's true. Against the lefty. That's a great
I would
call.
go at 3.
I really like that. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think both those guys are fine options. Elsewhere for tournament options, I like Brandon Moss a lot at $3,300. Big time upside there. Really starting to swing the bat. Well, hit a home run off a lefty yesterday. So if he's showing that, we know what he can do against righties. And I'm gonna throw out my dark horse sleeper for tournaments. Christian Yelich, $2,400 against Matt Harvey. If you're not playing Harvey, of course. Yelich, he finally got his first home run of the season. He's near minimum salary. Everyone's going to be on Harvey. So I think that's a nice way to set yourself apart if he gets a hold of one tonight.
Actually, he's has a different approach at the plate right now, if I'm not mistaken, because early in the season he was just atrocious. He hit 2 fly balls in the first month of the season. How do you have to try not to do that?
Yeah.
But anyway, if you're looking for cash game punts, here's what we have. I really like Kevin Kiermaier at minimum salary against Miguel Gonzalez, as we said. Fly ball pitcher, very generous to left-handed power in Camden Yards. Really caters to left-handed power. So the only hesitation I have with him is he has an ankle injury. He said he's going to play tonight. Double check the lineup to see if he's leading off. Maybe that affects him, maybe it doesn't, but at minimum salary, I think I'm going to take the plunge.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. And if Joey Butler's in the lineup and with a nice spot, 2,300, he's shown some power, gets Miguel Gonzalez. I think he's obviously more of a tournament play than a cash game play, but I like him. And, yeah, that's about it as far as cheap guys. I don't love any of these other guys here in the outfield.
Yeah, I'm trying to look right now, and yeah, that's basically what I'm thinking too.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and do this rundown here for your tentative lineup you got going.
All right, you ready?
Yep,
Go easy on me.
I will.
We have Cole Hamels, pitcher. I think you agree with
Check.
that. Evan Gaddis,
Okay.
catcher. Chris Davis, tentatively first baseman. Brian Dozier,
Love
Trevor
Brian Dozier.
Plouffe,
Yep.
Wilmer Flores, Denard Span, Adam Jones, Kevin Kiermaier.
Yeah, I think it's solid, man. I think the only risks that you've got, obviously, Chris Davis, but like you said, he's swinging the bat really well right now. So if he is making contact, it's going a long way. And Adam Jones, I mean, we said a little bit earlier. I mean, it seems like a good cash game play right now. You don't really need a whole lot of upside for your cash games there with him. I mean, if he gets you 3 to 4 points, gets on base, maybe gets an RBI, you got to like the spot there. So they should have some base runners on for him tonight. So I still think I prefer Roger Davis there at 3K a little bit, but I don't blame you with Adam Jones. He's got more home run upside. I mean, he hasn't shown it recently, but he has more home run upside for sure.
Yeah, and one thing I'm kind of tinkering with that same lineup. If you go Chris Davis to say Joey Votto or Freddie Freeman or Ryan Howard even, and then go Trevor Plouffe up to Adrian Beltre, I think that's a viable cash game lineup too.
Yeah, I think the cash game lineup there is really at third base. It's going to come down to either Beltre or Plouffe because they're both 3K or just below, and I mean they both got big time upside in their matchups.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for hanging out with us here. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to this YouTube channel here and check out all of our content for tonight's slate at dailyfantasycafe.com.